Good morning, traders. I wanted to go over a review of July 16th. I'm not going to go over each bar, but I want to talk about the big ideas and talk about how to trade a trading range day. Also, later in the video, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, the euro dollar, crude oil, and gold. So if you want to look at that, then wait until the end of the video. Today was a trading range. Now, how can we tell a day is a trading range and how it's likely going to stay a trading range? First thing on the open, when you see these overlap bars, so 2 bars up, but then a reversal bar, and then these are 2 bars down and then reversal bar. We see lots of tails below bars, on top of bars, and lots of bars overlapping, so it's really not going anywhere. Another thing, you see that breakouts are failing, and there is some symmetry to where the breakouts go. So by what I mean by that, if we draw a measure move from the high of this open range to the open, and then put that down here, that's where the market went. All right, now it got above the open, went back to the high. Where did it pull back to? It pulled back to the open. Then it tried to break out, and this breakout failed. So when I see the market playing around the open a lot, and when I see these breakouts failing like this, then those are signs that the day is going to be a trading range. And it's signs that you're in a trading range now. So some trades I took up to this point, you could have bought below here. I didn't, but the trade I did take was after these 5 bear bars down. I expected at least a little bit more down, and it was also below the moving average. So got a short there and just scalped out. Over here, as the market was going lower, I knew this was lower in the range, so I bought and scalped out. On this third trade, look at this great looking bull bar. Based off of that, I expected there to be at least a small second leg up. And in trading ranges, you need to be cautious about large bars like this, especially if they're higher up in the range. Based off of this, right, we had tried to go lower several times here, and then this looked like the bears were giving up, trying to go lower. And usually when you have a give up bar like that, you can at least expect a little bit more up. So even though this was a trading range today, this was a great looking bar, and it was still fairly low in the range, right? It wasn't too high up. So either it's going to go right up, you can get a scalp, or as it pulls back, you could buy more lower, and then try to get out break even on your first and a profit on your second. Pull this up. I was talking about how the open became important. And when you have days like that, the open tends to remain important for the whole day. So look how many times it came back and tested the open throughout the day. Here, here, here. Played around with it here. Tested it here. Tested again here. And when you see that, normally the market will try to close at the open. So when I see this move up here, often there'll be an attempt for it to go down back to the open. Now, they didn't get that here. I don't think there really was a good setup to short, hoping it would come back down here. This selling below this bar, it's really not a good enough short. I would wanted a better looking short, maybe like a double top here, but then, right, I mean, they had tails below here. This was a doji bar. Tails below. Market's still above the moving average. So really didn't get a good short for it to go back to the open. But later in the day, that's something you can watch out for. The market likes to come back and test that in the last hour of the day. So when you're trading in a trading range, you want to be scalping, so going for small wins. You want to be buying lower in the range and selling higher in the range. And you also want to trade small. And if your game plan is to be scalping in ranges like this, it's best if you can also scale in. So if I'm buying here, I would want to be able to buy lower as well. And then once the market comes back up, I'd be able to get profit on the second. So that's why you want to trade small, is so that you can give yourself room to scale in as needed. Now, if at any point your premise is that it's no longer a trading range and that it's breaking out against you, well, then you need to get out and take the loss on the trade. Ideally, that'll happen a low percent of the time, and most of the time you'll be able to either get a profit immediately, or you'll be able to profit or break even after scaling in. And then a lower percentage of the time is when you will take that loss. And that's really where the difficulty is in scalping and scaling in. That's why it's not for beginners, because you have to be able to manage that loss correctly, right? Even if 90% of the time you're getting out easily with a profit, well, 10% of the time it's going to go against you, and you have to be able to manage it correctly. So doing this is not recommended for beginners, but as you gain experience, you can look to add it into the trades that you take. I marked today in the Discord at 11:38. I said it was a trading range and gave direction on how to trade the rest of the day, which is buying lower in the range, selling higher in the range, and scalping. So even though we weren't doing the live stream, if you were in the Discord, you would have seen that this call, and that could have given you an advantage and given you direction on how to trade the rest of the day. So let's go ahead and talk about a few different markets. Start with the euro dollar. This is a daily chart. Really, all I'm going to point out here is that we have this trend line working down. There's also a 200 moving average here. Now, this market's been strong and it's rallied above that trend line, and it's had a couple closes above this 200 moving average. Also, look here on today's price. It came back and touched this trend line and then created a wick on the bottom, and it went back up. So I would be watching for a breakout up on the euro dollar. Might need to give it a few more bars, but on a lower time frame, you could look for possible buy setups as swings for long. The market might come back down below this and spend time down here, but I think if you get the right setup, I think that there could be a good long to take in there. So we can watch that over the next few days. Looking at Bitcoin, also daily chart. This is an important juncture here. So we've had this trend line down, and then you can see how the market has really played against this trend line, and while also playing against the 200 moving average. Had a couple tails on the bottom, failing to break out below the moving average, and then it was double topping at the trend line here, and now it's broken out. We've gotten 3 strong bars up. It looks like there's going to be at least more buying after this. So even if there's a pullback, I would expect at least a little more buying to happen out of that. The last several months really has been a leg 1, leg 2. So now we've completed this leg 2. Bears failed to take it below the 200 moving average. They failed to break out below the bottom of this range. And now the bulls have taken over. So I expect more up in Bitcoin. And then potentially what could happen is this could be the start of a move, of a major move up. Potentially we could be looking at 100,000 on Bitcoin. That's too early to call it from this. But if the bulls maintain their strength and they're able to break out above this high, then I think that'd be a reasonable target to be looking at. Looking at crude oil daily chart, we have a wedge, 3 pushes up, 1, 2, and 3. And there's also a bit of a double top here. So when you get a wedge, you're expecting there to be a halt in whatever direction the market was in. So we're expecting the bulls to step aside for about 2 legs down, and then it should take about 10 bars. And so what have we had here? Well, we've had 2 legs down, and it's been about 10 bars or so. So we would expect the bulls to actually be stepping back into this area here. So potentially you could look for some buy setups on a smaller time frame chart. I think as the market goes lower, there'll be buyers lower at the 200 moving average, at the 78 round number, at the highs of these bars here. Right, there's a bit of you can tell that in this area the market has been reacting to this $78 price. So it could go lower, but I think there's going to be buyers as it goes lower. So it shouldn't just collapse down. And then lastly, looking at the gold chart, a few days ago when we were looking at this bar here, it was looking like it was going to go higher. I didn't trade the futures for gold. I did buy a leverage ETF for gold, and I was able to make a little bit on this move up. So gold is at kind of a critical juncture, right? I mean, it's at a triple top. 1, 2, 3. We were expecting there to be buying because look at all the times the bears have failed here. They kept trying to push it lower here, 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 and then they just kept failing. Then once we started to get the bulls above the moving average here, they started to take control. Now they're able to push up to these highs. So with a triple top, it could be the start of a sell-off back down to the bottom. The feeling I'm getting is that gold is wanting to actually break out above these highs. I think the bears have tried multiple times to go lower, and they weren't able to. And now the bulls are feeling confident that they could make an attempt to break out above. If they do, measured move puts us up here around 2650. Also, what preceded this big trading range we're in? Well, there was a trend starting back in February that lasted until about May. So we would expect the trend to try to continue up, and then this whole range has just been a flag. Then measured move of that leg 1, leg 2 would put us up even beyond this measured move we have. So I think the bulls will attempt to break out above here, and if they can, then we're looking at targets up in the 2650, 2700 area. All right, that's all I've got. If you'd like to join the Discord, there's going to be more updates throughout the day on the Discord, so you'll be able to get more information if you're hanging out in the Discord, and especially on days when we're not live streaming. That'll be able to, you'll be able to get information if you're there. All right, thank you for watching.